Hi, welcome to the December 2015 Houston Clutter Coaching Meetup group. I'm Gayle Goddard, the Clutter Fairy, and tonight's topic is Reconsidering Paper, 6 Ideas for Tackling Your Paper Project. Welcome to the paper discussion. This is the topic that I hear the most about, the most objections about, the most complaints, questions, write-ins. Everybody wants to know about paper. I guess everybody thinks that they're struggling with the paper alone, like they're the only ones that are having this problem and everybody else is really working it out just great and that's not having an issue. And I'm just here to tell you that's a no. It's not really true. Everybody has trouble with paper. And truthfully, I have trouble with paper. That's not right. I'm good at paper, but I don't love doing it. Like I can make the files happen and I can put things away and I can shuffle the paper. And I do the things that I'm going to talk about tonight, but that does not also translate to loving it. So I can teach you how to do it. I can't teach you how to love it. If there's somebody out there that loves to manage their paper all the time, you can make $1 million by doing it for everybody you know. I'm just telling you that right now. Right? Okay, so it is everybody's issue. Everybody has some version of having a problem with it. And if you are ADD, if you are OCD, if you are easily distracted, if you have small children, if you live with a big family, I'm sure that your issue is compounded by all of those things. So cats, dogs, they eat the paper, they spread the paper, they get hair on the paper. There's always something that's making paper hard. So trust me, you're not alone. You are not the only one. Right, group?
Right.
Yes. Okay. Good. So this is really the problem with paper. Everybody hates it, or some version of hates it is either neutral to hate, maybe. And that means that you are disinclined to do something about it, right? So if you don't think about it very hard and you just kind of ignore the paper, then that's your choice. Like instead of doing something about the problem of paper, you choose to do nothing about the paper. But there's no good consequence that comes from making that choice. If you decide to do nothing, I can tell you now, nothing good will come of this, right? A week in, you have a stack of paper somewhere. Paper clutter is somewhere on some surface. A month in, you have a mountain of paper that's starting to teeter and slide under its own weight, right? And you know what? It's bad when you go to put today's mail on top of the pile and it finally goes vroom and slides over to the side and off the table onto the floor and then it all goes tumbling down, right? Just like snow rolling off the mountain. That's what happens to it. A year in and you're sleeping with it and the house is sinking under the weight of the paper, right? I have clients, and I'm sure Susan has too. You go to the house and they're sleeping on half the bed and the other half of the bed is completely covered in paper. So eventually the paper will chase you to your bed and that will be your sign that you're out of room for paper. Like the problem has reached epic proportion when it's in bed with you. I'm just saying that's a good sign that it's time to pick it up. So if your choices are do something about it, do nothing about it, no reward for doing nothing. Okay, I'll just say that right now. You may not feel joy at handling the paper, but at least you will not suffer the negative consequence, right? So if that's the only way that you can motivate yourself, then use it. Use the I don't want to drown under the tower of paper like the guy from New York, the 2 brothers in New York, the famous hoarding situation where their papers, their actual papers fell on them, trapped them, and they died in the apartments, right? So, and they didn't find them at the same time. That was the really sad thing. Like they figured out that one of them was missing and they found him pretty quickly, but then it took several days later for them to find where the other guy had sort of been buried as well. So you don't want to be that person, and clearly that was an extreme example, but we're all working with our own level of mountain in our house, and so this is the conversation where we talk about trying to deal with it. Okay. We promised 6 ideas for managing, so here is the 6 ways that you can learn, practice the Zen of paper processing. We want to aim for accepting it's a daily practice. I must deal with my paper every day. I must deal with my paper every day. So we want to try to talk to you about ways to create a routine that you are willing to accept, which is probably as good as you're going to get. Nobody's ever doing happy dances about doing their paper. Okay. Step number 1, admit that you're powerless over the paper and your life has become unmanageable, right? It's really a step to admit and be conscious about the fact that if you ignore the paper, it will do nothing but worse. You have to accept that you need a habit. There needs to be a habit for dealing with paper every day. There's no way around it. There's no magic. Unless you have someone else in your life who assumes the responsibility for processing your mail, no one is going to do the mail for you. It's not going to magically be done. I do not actually have fairies on staff that come to the house and fix your paper. We're going to sit very carefully going through all your paper, and you're going to be paying me the whole time I'm doing it, okay? So you want to do that instead, if you can. And learning to do that is accepting that you have to, and learning to do it is the most important thing, okay? I wrote it here. You've accepted that you need to brush your teeth every day. Nobody thinks brushing your teeth is fun, right? But you can learn to do the paper too, just like you brush your teeth. Okay, number 2. Imagine in your mind, if you will, a big black line between the paper that's already there, what I'm thinking of as the project, the backlog, right? And the paper that is coming in new every day, right? 2 different tasks. You want to deal with the paper that's coming in now so that the backlog doesn't keep growing, so that you learn the habit of processing new. And once you're doing new every day, the new stuff's coming and you deal with that little pile, then that backlog pile becomes finite and it stops growing, and you can then work on that once you've got the habit down for doing daily paper. So, got to work on that first to stem the tide, stem the flow, stop the bleeding. Because you know the newspaper is coming every day, you know the mailman's coming every day. That is not slowing down. And I make a joke about the mail's going to come for 3 months after you die, because it takes everybody a long time to figure out that you're dead. But it's the truth. I've lived it. I've seen it. You know, we're still getting mail from my mother. So someone will be having to deal with your mail. You'll just be off duty. Once you, when you pass away, it becomes someone else's problem. But up until that point, from now until then, you are responsible for your paper. And stemming the tide of what's new coming in is the first place to start. Okay? Once you get used to the idea, this is what I do with my paper every day. I'm, taking in the mail. I'm going through and throwing stuff away. I'm putting away things I need to keep. Once you have a system about that and you allocate that 3 minutes every day, 5 minutes every day to do your paper and do it 100%, and you're comfortable with that, then you can start thinking about the backlog. Because now you have to add in, like, you don't stop brushing your teeth no matter what's happening, right? So you got to keep doing the mail no matter what's happening. So you get that routine going, and then you go out to your calendar to deal with the backlog. And ultimately, depending on whether you have 327 boxes full of mail from a move, or whether you have 2 big mounds somewhere in the house, whatever that backlog is, you're going to have to spend the time to get through it all and do it carefully so that you're not throwing away something important. And so scheduling time to do that will be how you manage the backlog. Go on your calendar and say, Tuesday evening, Saturday afternoon, I'm going to spend an hour on Sunday, every Sunday until it's done. It has to be an open-ended project. Some people are faster at it than others. Don't worry about how fast it's going. You just have to accept your speed and your ability to process, and then schedule amounts of time, and not punishing amounts of time. Everybody wants to get organized by doing it all in one weekend. Yeah, that's not going to happen. And you're going to hate yourself if you try, and then you're not going to do it again for another 2 years. So you want to set reasonable amounts of time on the calendar. I want to do an hour. I want to do 30 minutes every day. I want to do an hour on every Saturday. Whatever works, right? Whatever works for your schedule. Clearly, everybody's schedule is different. But making a recurring appointment to address it is the best way to handle it. And keep it open-ended until you get done. The alternative is, and some people in your life will say to you, it's old, just throw it all away. It's been in there for 2 years. And I'm going to tell you, as a professional, no. Don't ever do that, because I have found too many uncashed checks, Social Security cards, very important photos, because they get mixed in, and it will be 95% trash, and there'll be 3 pieces of paper in there that are super important, hard to replace, a bother, a huge bother if you really have lost it. So, although you can shortcut the process by taking the unopened box and go throwing it away, 2 years from now you're going to be scrambling to find something and wondering in your head if it was in that box you threw out, right? So, no. That's just your frustration talking, and it means that you need to spend a little bit more time, maybe spreading the appointments out, whatever, but you want to do that in a thorough manner so that you feel comfortable in your heart. I touched every piece of paper and I made a good decision about it, because you don't want to be crying later. I must have thrown it out. And have no way of proving or disproving that to yourself, right? You will just torture yourself forever. So, sorry I can't shortcut it. Sorry there's not a super fast way to do it. You're going to have to schedule an appointment and go back to it and roll. So every day you're going to spend 5 minutes on mail, and when you get to your recurring appointment, you're going to work on the backlog, okay? I swear to God, you will get to the end. It happens. It even happens when I'm being paid to do it. Like, we go, and they're like, oh, we're still working on this. This is your 4th appointment. I know, but we're almost there. Hang on. And we eventually get to the end, right? So for either projects, whether you're doing the daily stuff or you're working on the backlog project, start out with one simple question. Am I keeping it, or is this going? And is it going to trash, to recycle, to shred? Those are all versions of going, right? It doesn't matter why you're keeping it in the beginning. You just want to decide, am I keeping it, or is it trash? And there's a couple reasons I say this. This is a faster decision to get through a big mound of paper, because most of the time there's a little bit of important paper and a lot of junk, right? You get a handful of mail, you go and sit it on the counter, and 95% of it is adverts, letters, company mail that doesn't have anything to do with your life, right? So once you clear out the trash, you're left with a significantly smaller portion of, okay, this is what I'm keeping, and now I have to work out what I'm going to do with it. But if you try to work out what you're going to do with it as you get started on the backlog, you will get completely bogged down. You will pick up the piece of paper and go, I don't know what to do with this, I need to, and then it's like your brain turns off and you go watch television, right? So you want to be able to pay attention enough to say, do I want this for some reason, or is this a piece of trash that I can throw away? Do that. Go all the way through, and you do that with today's mail. You got 10 pieces in your hand. You throw away 8 of them. You're left with 2 that you got to go do something with, right? So start with the throwaway process first, and then go back and deal with the keeps. Now for today's mail, that's all happening in the same 5 minutes. But for the backlog project, you may be going keep, toss for 6 months before you circle back to the keep. So make yourself a box, keep on the outside, and everything you want to keep, just throw it in the box. When that box fills up, if you have to, start another box. Let's hope you don't, but whatever. Depends on if you got 10 years of mail, it may take you a few boxes, right? But if you get you go through and say, yes, I want it, no, yes, then you know that everything that you care about is in those boxes. If there's an emergency, if the house catches on fire, if you have to find the Social Security card you throw in there, you know you can dive into that box and eventually it will come up, right? I say to do that because that's the way to really visibly shrink what you have to process and get a whole bunch of stuff out of your face and out of your way. Once you spend your weeks or months or a year So, and I say that because I have a client couple, they're newspaper people, retired, and they're getting ready to downsize. So one of them was the librarian, the research librarian, and one of them is a reporter. Well, you can imagine how much paper is in their house, right? Massive amounts of his writing articles and her research information, and there's tons and tons and tons of paper. And we have been, for a year, going through their house in the process, getting them ready. Every 3 weeks for 3 hours, which is basically an hour a week, right? We've been spending going through their stuff, and half of it was paper. So it may take you a while, but once you get through everything and you're left with this very concentrated pile of keeps, then you're on to the next step, okay? Which is step 5. You have a concentrated keep pile. All of the things that you kept the same kinds of things over and over again, right? This is a bill. This is for my taxes. This is a keepsake. These are photos or keepsakes from my family. These are magazines, articles that I want to read. Give me another category. There's a million reasons why you keep paper, but there's some basics that everybody handles, right? So ultimately, you're going to have your version, Susan's version of, here's my 6 categories of paper and why I kept them. You can take that keep pile and sort it into those categories. Because when you go to make a system to deal with the paper, you're really making a system per category, not per piece of paper. And that's where people get a little hung up, I think. You're taking all the bills and you're developing a system to deal with the bills. You're taking all the keepsakes and you're developing a place to park and keep the keepsakes. You're taking all the tax records and you're developing a way to deal with the tax records, right? So when you have this big mass of keep and you sort it into its various categories, then you can say, okay, how am I going to handle my bills? How am I going to handle my taxes? Where am I going to put the things that I want to read? Where am I going to put the fill in the blank, right? Somebody might have, where am I going to put my work paperwork? Where am I going to put my, I'm making it up, my craft. You know, people that are crafters always have a million instruction packets, right? They take notes, they go to workshops, they buy things online, and it's all how to make something. And then all that paper's floating around the house. So one of the keep piles is craft instructions. Got one. It's in a box on the back of my desk, right? So everybody has that process to deal with their version of categories, figure out what they are, and then you're making your system for each category, right? Then once you figure out, I'm going to put the bills over here, then all the bills that came out of the box go in the bill system, right? All this stuff about taxes can go in the tax box. And when I'm talking to people and going through paper, I start saying things like, okay, these are all for taxes, so let's go put all the tax stuff in a box. It's going to go in the closet. But we're not going to put the bill system in the closet, right? Because you need to be able to get into it. So the bill system, let's go put this on the desk where you write the checks or you go online and pay them. Let's put them in a container here near where you're working. That's the kind of thought process that I'm talking about in terms of go make it work where it makes sense for the categories. Okay? Number 6, rinse and repeat. You'll be doing this until the backlog's done. And once you get down through the backlog, you're going to wake up one day and go, oh my gosh, all I have to do today is my new mail. And when you get to that place where you're only spending 5 minutes a day doing the new stuff because your backlog is cut up, you're going to be like, woo, I am a rock star, I am a rock star. And you can come and tell us all about it, right? It is, the mountain just keeps getting bigger. You have to develop a habit and you have to dig yourself out. Or else somebody's going to come behind you with a shovel when you're gone and do this, right? Mm-hmm. And won't that be sad? So you might as well do the shovel for yourself now. You're the best judge of your stuff. You know what's important and what isn't. Take the time to do it. And I wish I could make it fun. I guess it's fun for me when I work with other people because we make jokes about it, right? We're, oh look, another craft instruction. You know, look, it's the 37th application for a credit card that we're going to shred today, right? It gets funny when there's so much volume and you keep finding the same things over and over and over again, and at some point you start going, oh my God. And you'll remember that when you're processing today's mail and you open this up and it's like, here's a new credit card. And you used to say, oh, well, I might need to apply for that card. And then after you've shredded 50 of them, you go, yeah, they're going to send me more. It'll be okay, right? I don't have to worry about this one right now. Okay? That is the Clutter Fairy advice about paper. So this is the place where I say to you, please aim for the Zen practice of paper. We want you to be able to manage it and not be overwhelmed. This is the goal. I know you can do it, and I know you don't believe me that you can do it. So this is where you get to ask me questions about what your paper issue is. Who has trouble with paper? You do. You do, right?
Can't even find I'm lucky to be able to find my face in the mirror. Yeah, and how come I'm not laughing?
Well, yeah. It does require attention, and that is the hardest part. Who wants to give up their free time to mess with paper? I don't like it. You know, it's not fun. But there's some point, and usually it's around tax time, where it really starts to be painful that the paper's not organized, right? And somebody's going, you gotta send, you gotta send, you gotta send. You're like, I know, you're scrambling to try to find it all. And then you end up sending off an incomplete packet. You end up finding things after it's already gone, and you're stuck. So it does require attention. What do you have to say about paper?
What do you do when you tend to fall off the wagon as often as you climb back on? I mean, like, I am doing good if I can string together 2 days in a row of dealing with today's new stuff.
Well, that's okay. So maybe it makes sense for you that you do it every other day instead of every day. So imagine you get a chunk of stuff in the mail, right? You get 10 today. The second day you have 20 pieces, right? So instead of spending your 3 to 5 minutes, you're going to spend 6 to 10 minutes every other day. If you're willing to do that and still do it every other day, you should be okay. I wouldn't want to go beyond that much, because once you say 3 days, then it's 30 pieces and it's already looking like an irritating pile, right? It's already going to tell you, oh, I don't want to deal with that right now. And I want you to hear that voice in your head, I don't want to deal with that right now, and go, no, Gayle said 3 minutes. If all you have time to do is stand over the trash can and throw out the trash, even if you don't know what to do with the stuff you're keeping, same logic. Even if you're keeping stuff in a bucket, you're still only keeping 10%, right, of what comes in. Even if you just divert 90% away every day and don't deal with the pile until the weekend, then you're dealing with, 12 pieces on the weekend instead of 60 pieces on the weekend. You see the difference? You'll be a little bit more willing to go to those 12 pieces and go, okay, I got to put the bills away. I'm going to go put the magazine on the magazine pile. I got to go file this piece of paper. Here's an invitation, right? And part of the reason I say that is because when I'm digging through this cache of, here's the box, they swept it off the table for the party and put it in the closet 3 years ago, and I pull it back out, I always find an uncashed check, an invitation to a party they missed, right? Your life and the things that are interesting and important to you still do come in the mail. Like, people still send invitations and say, come to my birthday party, come to my wedding, right? And if you don't get it in the mail, you miss it. You're surrendering part of the fun of your life by not taking that 3 minutes to open the mail. Well, that's sad.
That's good.
Right? You want to have a good time. You want to make sure that you throw out all the trash so you can find the party invitation and the check. So we just did the Messiest Garage Contest. The NAPO group did the Messiest Garage Contest a few weeks ago.
What's the name?
National Association of Professional Organizers. And we do a Messiest Garage Contest, and somebody wins a day of a whole bunch of organizers and free monkey bar storage in their garage. And we picked a lady who was a widow, and then she had downsized into a smaller house from where she and her husband had lived. And so clearly the garage was the staging area. Like everything she didn't know what to do with in the moment went into the garage. So when we started pulling out, we found lots of boxes with papers in it. And they were like papers from her husband's office in the house that clearly she was too distressed to deal with. But I found a check for like $13,000 in there because her husband had, before he died, had been settling his mother's estate, and he'd gotten an insurance check in the settlement of the estate that had gone uncashed.
Wow.
Because he had died and she had boxed and it had gone in the garage. And you should have seen the look on her face. And I'm like, woohoo! Guess what I found? And she was so excited. You still get things in the mail that are important to you and that you need to get. And so, as irritating as messing with the paper is, occasionally you get a little bonus, you get a reward, right? It's worth the effort. The negative consequence is that you drown in the paper. So you're benefiting yourself by making sure that you don't drown. And every once in a while you get a bonus payment, right? People get insurance checks. I'm always finding they see the dental insurance company on the envelope, and so they think it's an explanation of benefits and they toss it aside. And then I open it up and they're being reimbursed for a bunch of dental trips that they made, and it's a check that's been sitting there for a year. If you don't open the envelope and look and guarantee, tell it's okay to throw it out, you don't get to open it and go, hey, they sent me money this time. They're not just sending me stupid paper I don't care about. I'm getting paid, right? This is where I want you to be. I want you to be at the place where you feel like it's worth it because I'm going to have, every once in a while, something fun's going to happen. And in the meantime, I can still walk in my house. These are the important things in life, right? Yes, Mr. Howard.
You mentioned old checks that arrived a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
I find a lot of checks come in labeled not good after 90 days.
That's correct.
What does one do with those?
So here's the thing about checks. They don't want the check to be floating around there for 3 years, but they still actually owe you the money. If they wrote you a check, the fact that you haven't cashed it doesn't cancel out their obligation to you. They still owe it to you. So they just sort of automatically void the check so they're not carrying old checks on their reconciliation forever. But if they ever issued you a check, they owe you the money. And you can call up the company and say, I just found this old check. Can I please get a replacement? And they'll say, thank you very much. We will send it out in the mail.
And usually pretty fast.
Yeah.
I was surprised that happened.
They want it off their books. And
Yeah.
you're not the only, like I said, everybody has a problem with paper. You're not the only one that found the check after the expiration date.
Well, and I actually had an insurance check that was past the 90 days or whatever it was that it said on there. And I called and they said, deposit it in an ATM because a teller will turn it down, but an ATM won't, and it will still clear our system. And if it turns out, that it's refused, if it's refused, in the rare instance that it's refused, then they will issue you another one. But
I would just, I would call first and get that instruction. I mean, I
Yeah.
agree with you,
Yeah.
but
I imagine
if
that,
they do boot it back, then you owe the rejection
right?
$25.
I imagine that the amount makes a difference, and that $1,000, checks for thousands of dollars get voided, and checks for 38 cents don't. You know
Exactly.
what I mean?
Exactly. It's worth the effort. If they are actually writing a check on their checking account to you, it's because they determined that they owe you the money. Make the phone call and say, please replace, and they will happily do that.
I had
Yes.
one for $77. I don't remember what it was for, but they would not reimburse me. And it said on the check, no, reimbursable afterwards or something like that. But that's not right. is
No,
it?
it's not right. If they wrote you a check, they still they should owe you.
Actually, that's against the law, and so everyone needs to go to the Texas Unclaimed Property, because they have to, after a certain amount of time, it's turned into that thing.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so everybody, you could have an account that you think you closed 20 years ago, or whatever, I don't know how long the limit is, but, and you could.
It's forever. That's the
Yeah,
thing
and
about
you can-
unclaimed.
Yeah, so you can go there and you may have something that you have no idea, or your rent or something,
It's called a sheeting. And they're required by law after 3 years, if you haven't cashed the check, if you haven't, whatever the contract, you have a bank account that's been closed and they've had no contact from you after 3 years, they have to take whatever asset still remains. And if they wrote you a check, it's that they owe you that money, right? They transfer it to the state of Texas, and the state of Texas then takes over holding it until you figure it out and call them. But
there's no alert to you.
no, there's no alert to you.
It's upon you to.
Yeah, you got to go check unclaimed property. And a lot of times the reason bank accounts get moved, people die, and the descendants don't know that it was there, and they lose contact. The phone number goes dead. Nobody's answering the mail, and they don't know how else to contact somebody. So it just goes through a sheet process and goes out to the state of Texas. The bottom line is, if they wrote you a check sometime, they owe you the money. So you can call them, and if it's been more than 3 years, they will probably refer you to Texas, because they will say to you, it's been escheated to the state of Texas. They'll be able to look that up and tell you that.
What's that word? Escheated?
ESCHEAT.
One more time.
Just go to the state of Texas
ESCH.
website. It's real easy.
ESCH.
You just look up unclaimed property.
I just wanna know what that's
ESCHEAT. Escheat. Yes.
And with checks, I used to, write on it and then stick it in my my work bag or my purse. And sometimes that would be a little bit of a black hole. Then I just started immediately putting it in my wallet.
Right?
Yeah.
That's a good
That
thing.
way.
And thank you for mobile banking, right? You can deposit the checks on the phone. It is the bomb.
Yeah, it is.
You can deposit them on the phone. Because the cameras are good enough to be able to read the microencoding now, you can take those stupid checks from the insurance company and sit them on the table and take the picture, and poof, it goes in the bank the next day. And then you write on the bottom of it, deposit it on yada yada day, so you don't forget and try to do it again. The bank is smart enough to know that. They'll tell you, hey, we already did this, sorry. But those little everybody has the $12 check, the friend paid them back for something, the $20 check, it came as a refund from the AT&T when you closed the account. There's all those little checks that are annoying, right? And nobody wants to go to the bank. Mobile banking. If you don't ever want to do your regular banking that way, it's worth the mobile app on your phone just to put those stupid miscellaneous checks in the bank and not have to go there to do it. Right?
Well,
My business runs on mobile banking. Let me just say, I bow down to Wells Fargo. Thank you so much. All my checks go right into the phone.
I guess in the spirit of, reducing our paper piles, in addition to depositing, I have found that now I use my smartphone to pay my bills through the mobile banking. And so I have a few bills, like the city of Houston water bill, where it's a very little lead time from the time you get it and when the time it's due.
Right.
And if I don't do it right away, I've missed it.
Right.
So that has really been
I'll
phenomenal.
tell you, with interest rates being so low, your best bet is to play everything, have it automatic, and they pay it on the last day to pay it.
Mhm.
And it gives you such peace of mind.
Yeah.
Plus, you get, I said that the interest
Also a
rate,
good
you
idea.
get points on your credit card.
If that's where it's charging. Exactly.
They charge you a credit card,
Would
you
you
get the
repeat
points,
those
and it adds up for an airline ticket.
Yeah.
She's not.
Yeah, so basically what Lois is saying is that you can reduce your paper by setting everything to automatic payment so that you don't miss it because you didn't find the bill in time.
Most of my bills I've set it through auto.
Yeah, it's a good
It's a lot
thing.
easier to manage.
But you still have to go and look and see, every once in a while you gotta look at your bank statement. Okay, I'm just saying. Because, once you put it on auto, then it's sort of like la 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 la, I'm not paying any attention. And suddenly the car insurance has doubled and you never noticed, right? That kind of stuff. So you need to pay attention to your bank statement and look at it. And that's another story. That was a Nancy Martin story. Right? Martin? Nancy? Nancy. Moody. Nancy Moody. Sorry, Nancy. She's an organizer, and her tale was that her client had ignored the mail for a couple months, 2 months probably. And so she was opening mail, and she started opening bank statements and realized that there was a bunch of money suddenly flying out of the account. Somebody had stolen some credit card or somehow gotten into her bank account and had drained like $20,000 out. And the client hadn't noticed because she hadn't opened her bank statement. So this is another reason why it's worth it to look at your mail every day, right? So when the bank statements come, you can open it up and go, gee, there's not a $10,000 debit out of that. Awesome. What a great idea, right?
Well, I'm curious, who here still gets a bank statement? Because,
I do.
okay, and the only reason I say that is I'm with BBVA Compass, and about 08, like 08, 09, they said, we're no longer doing statements.
Well, part of it is that mine's a business account,
Okay.
and I can choose not to. My personal one, I get electronically, but the business one, I get paper, because I want, I want a record for my taxes.
And then I have the option
To print it,
if I want
right?
to print it out.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I can just go on and look at it
How
anytime.
many years and you get it online?
I think it goes back 7 years.
And they're the ones that are beyond like 18 months or something. You're basically ordering it, and then they put it out there. They go find it and put it out as a PDF for you the next day or something. But you can get it online most of the time. And the story here is all you guys are coming up with great ways to minimize paper, and this is awesome. And you have to do that in conjunction with dealing with the paper that's already there. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so these are really good ways to minimize the amount of useful paper that comes into your house, but what about the just junk mail that comes all the time? How do we stop that? Is there a way? Yes.
Okay, so you can use the do not mail list, which will filter it down some. It never stops everything, right? You can go on to catalogchoice.org and say, I want this catalog, I don't want that catalog. And there's a lot of companies that use as an interface so that it reduces their costs as well, right? So if you shop at LL Bean all the time, you probably want that catalog, but then you also start getting J. Crew and you get competing ones of the same kind, and you don't want those. You can go on Catalog Choice and say, no, don't send me those, I don't want them. They are labor, they require interaction and labor, right? You have to go do something to stop it. The biggest thing that I've done for myself is I hardly ever buy stuff online. Like I don't shop online. Right? It's not that I'm actively trying to, like I prefer to go into a store and see it in the store, right? So I don't want a million catalogs coming to the house. That makes me insane. So it's worth it to me to go, yeah. I mean, if I buy a techie gadget, I don't suddenly get a big catalog from the tech company, right? I start getting an email. I can deal with an email. But if I buy any, a clothing, a shoe, a tchotchke online, then I'm suddenly getting 47 catalogs that are sort of in the general vicinity, right? Makes me insane. So I prefer to manage my online interactions so that I'm not constantly putting in my email address and my credit card number online. I do it to pay bills, but I'm not doing it to shop. I may search online. So if that's not your drill, if you're big into shopping, then they set those pages up so that, I want a newsletter, I want a catalog, or like default checked. And you always have to go uncheck them. And if you leave the screen and come back and it refreshes, it rechecks the boxes. I mean, every time that you do it, you have to go and uncheck boxes somewhere to keep your name off lists. They make it really interactive. That's the best thing you can do, is try to unhook yourself in every way possible. Yes?
And sometimes with the credit card, they send you the privacy notices, they're probably legally required. But look at it, because it'll say where they'll opt you, by default, they'll opt you in on their marketing with their other subs. Some of it you can get out and some of it you can't.
But it requires taking their little inserted card or going online to their website and finding the obscure don't market me button and unclicking it.
Or I just call.
Yes, I
And
do.
you can subscribe at the
Yeah,
bottom,
yeah, yeah.
some emails.
You can't tell what's the good mail from the bank and what isn't.
Well, yeah.
Or just call, if you don't want to figure it out or you can't remember catalog.com, because I can't, I'll just call them if I get too many catalogs.
And all of that is trying to stem the flow of what's coming in the house, right? But it does require active intervention on your part. There's no passive way to go, yeah, I wish they wouldn't send me some catalogs. Click buy, click buy, click buy. Because you're going to get 3 in the box that comes with what you bought, and then they're going to put you on the regular mailing list, and you're going to start getting them. So if you want to shut that down, you have to go online and do work. And it's, it's a management task. It's something that you have to allocate time to do. It depends on how irritated you are. Is it easier for you to throw the stuff in the recycling bin and less painful? Or would you rather shut it down completely, which means you're gonna go online and, interact with the companies that you do business with and tell them, take me off? Yes, ma'am.
Gail, what was that first email that you mentioned? Something about mail?
Oh, do not mail.
Do not mail?
Is it it's called the Do Not Mail Registry.
Okay.
And I think if you Google that should get you there. It's basically, you dump your name into a marketing list and companies agree to interface with that list to take you off.
I think
Which
I had
means
done
that
that some time ago.
It's not instantaneous. They have to go out occasionally and grab the list, right? So they're gonna, you can't do it today and expect all the mail to disappear tomorrow. You do it today and you watch it drop off over 6 months is really what's happening.
Is there any way to do that with your phone? I mean, on a cell phone, you can.
There's
watch
also a
the
do not
calls,
call list.
But it doesn't work.
Yeah,
That's-
because I'm sorry to say it
Really?
like that, it was
Right.
godsend for me.
Yeah.
Right?
You don't have to refresh it. It'll expire.
No, it no longer expires.
Oh, really?
You're right, it did. It was like every 2 or 3 years, and I went out there about a year ago, and it's now permanent. They've changed the
Oh,
laws.
okay. That's
But
good.
these companies don't pay.
But you have to go redo it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Right?
Okay.
Okay, so that's phone. Let's not get off on the phone.
Does the do not mail cover pre-approved credit card stuff, or is there a separate resource for that? 'Cause I
There
know
is a
there's
separate
way to do
resource,
that.
and I forget that he's asking about unsolicited. Do you want our credit card applications, right? And that is not covered by the do not mail. You have to ask. There's a separate way to deal with that, though.
I think maybe.
And I'm
one-
sorry, I don't have it. We'll have to look it up
maybe one
because
or more of the credit bureaus operates that, so it might,
yeah.
Wasn't
Good.
it opt out or something like
Right.
So,
Up, down.
that? Opt out.
opt out. Okay, good. The idea being that when you get unsolicited credit card applications, they tend to put your name and address at the top of it. So if somebody was going to pilfer your mail, and they could sort of apply for a credit card in your name because it'd be pre-directed to your name, and then they could go on about their business and do what they want. But if you want those, if you're not trying to apply for a bunch of credit cards, most of us are not, then you can turn those off, basically, yeah.
Yes, I have a question about shredding. So I know if you get those applications, you should shred them. But somebody told me that you should shred everything with your name and address on it,
No.
which is so annoying.
So here's the thing. There is no way that you can prevent someone from getting your name and address in 1,000 times easier than rooting through your mail. Your name and address is all over the internet in a million ways. So the effort that you take to shred your name and address is completely, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, a complete waste of your time.
Oh, good, thank you.
I would, if it is something that has your account number on it, the utility bill that has your address and an account number, your credit card with a credit card number on it. Some of the paper comes and it has a full number on it. Anything that's got your social, anything that is medical, that has your personal medical history, records, it's going to have your social, it's going to have your birth date, it's going to have all sorts of stuff on it that's basically the key to the kingdom, okay? So you want to shred the stuff that has the key to the kingdom data on it. What is my birth date? What is my pet's name? The answer to your security questions, all that kind of stuff. If it has that on there, it needs to be shredded.
Okay.
But random, all the envelopes that have your name and address pre-printed on them, yeah, it's not helping you at all to have that stuff shredded.
Okay.
And this is one of those things that when you're dealing with 10 pieces a day, you're going to throw away 7 pieces. You're going to find one, it's a credit card app, you're going to shred. And if you open it, there's 5 pieces of paper that go in the trash and 1 credit card application goes in the shredder, right? So if it's part of your daily routine that when you see it today, it needs to be shredded, you stand at the shredder and go zip. It takes you 3 seconds and you can walk away. And then you never have to worry about it floating around. It's done and you're done. That's what those little $20 home shredders are for. They're for the random 1 piece of paper that you find that needs to be shredded right now. Those little things cannot hold up to a backlog of I now have 50 boxes of old documents that need to be shredded. Then you have to go for, bulk professional solutions. Like IKEA is having a shred day on, January, what day is it going to be?
23rd or 24th, whatever Saturday that is.
January 23rd or 4th, whichever Saturday it is, 2016. We do an event at NAPO, and part of that is free shredding. So there's a shred truck on site. You can drive up to the front of the IKEA. The nice man comes out and dumps your boxes in a bin. You can watch him take the thing and hook it up to the truck and watch it chew up in the truck if you want on the camera. So if you get a big backlog of stuff that needs to be shredded, don't try to do it at home. You will kill yourself trying to do it at home, and you will kill your shredder. Find a bulk solution, pay for somebody to do it.
It's cheap.
It's cheap. And basically, you know, half of you guys will have some office box where all the shredding for the office goes, and you can go take things to the office.
That's what I do.
People that work in hospitals and universities, any large corporation has a shred bin somewhere, and you can go dump your stuff in the shred bin for free, as long as you don't abuse it, right? But otherwise, you're gonna make it happen in bulk. Let a professional eat it all up at once, because you will spend 45 minutes dealing with it and getting 5 boxes gone versus 12 hours shredding 5 boxes in the little personal shredder. Even the one that can handle, you know, even the one that's tall and costs $100, I've killed a few of those in my lifetime on jobs because people want me to shred it on in place. And you know, we shred and shred and shred and shred and shred, and eventually it dies because it's not designed to function like that. That is not your private shredding company. It will not work like one. Yes, ma'am.
I want to say something that a lot of people don't know this because nobody reads user manuals. That when you have a shredder, whether it's cheap or expensive, it has to have, you have to oil a piece of paper across it, the width of it, every time you either empty the bag or if you sit down and do like 10 minutes of shredding at once. And you don't have to even buy the 10 bottle of oil. You get vegetable oil. And just put a little drip across the side of the paper and stick it through and reverse it. Because you have to oil the gears.
Mineral oil.
No, it can be vegetable oil.
I'm like her.
It's
I got
okay.
to the point because I've burned one up like that, and I just buy the pan spray, you know, and I go and spray. I don't care. At least I'm doing it.
It's a $20 shredder. What are you gonna do, right? The idea is that the motor heats up. That's the first thing that kills it. The motor heats up, and the blades get, you know, chewed up and dull because then it has to work harder to eat your paper that you're shoving in there, going, ugh, cut the paper, and it's, no.
A lot of the newer ones will have automatic turn off now when it gets hot. But
Yeah,
so if
they
it gets
do.
to that point, it's
They
time
do.
to
It's time to get the oil out.
get the big oil out.
Yes.
I get a lot of charitable solicitations
Mhm.
for charities that I do donate to. You know, it's not necessarily, you know, like $1,000, but I get them. But then I get on other lists. And
Yes,
so I
you
open them, I'm
do.
like, okay, well, I don't know if I want to donate to this. I need to check them on Charity Navigator. I put them aside, and then pretty soon I've got a huge.
Okay, so
pile.
this is the charity version of unsolicited catalogs. Okay. If you give them $5, you go on a donor list because you are now a hot prospect because you're willing to give money, right? So you get on the list because you were very kind in your heart and you gave away $5 of your hard-earned money. And then they start they put you on the solicitation rotation. Like then it's worth the money to mail to you over and over.
Right.
So just like the credit cards, I can shred this one today because more are coming. You know that those 5 charities that you give to are going to send you 30 pieces of mail each, which means that I find this a lot when I'm working with people that are donating as part of their regular expenses every month. They get over and over and over from the same company. It doesn't matter how much you give or how little you give, you get the same volume of mail, right? So there's always another one. You know the 5 that you're willing to give to because you've checked them out and vetted them and you're satisfied that they can get your money, right? Keeping every time they send it to you because you haven't decided is a losing proposition. I throw away 50 versions of the same company's charity thing and get down to a stack of here's one of the 5 people that I want, right? And it doesn't matter if you save the one that came out in February and you mail it to them in December, they don't care. They got a check from you, right? It doesn't matter what little card you send them. They're happy. It's going to have your name on it. It has money in it. They're woohoo, right? So the idea is you know who those companies are. You save one, and then everything that comes after that you pitch until you're ready to make the decision. You don't want to tell yourself, oh, I like the cat place. I want to give money to Alley Cats, right? So, because you're gonna every time you see Alley Cats, you're gonna put that aside, and then when you go to make the check, there's gonna be 30 of them in there, and you're not gonna write 30 checks, right? So you put one in the bill pile, and it can sit there until you're ready to write a check, which may be 6 months from now, or what you do end of your gifting, or whatever you're gonna do. I got a bonus, I'm giving 10% away, whatever you're doing. You keep one in the bill pile and let it sit there until you're ready to decide. And everything after that, trash, 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 trash. Because truthfully, unless you're giving to 150 charities, you probably know in your head, I've saved an Alley Cat one, I've saved a food bank one, I've saved a hostel one, right? Like you know what's there. You only need 6 of them to make your decision. All the rest of them can go away. And open those envelopes. I need to say this, and I haven't. Open the envelopes. We keep the envelope, oh, that's from Target, and you go put it in the bill pile without opening it. But you only need, if you're gonna mail it, you need the return envelope, you need the bill itself, and then there's 47 other pieces of paper in there that you don't need, right? Throw that away. Now, open the envelope, get the bill and the thing out, go put it in the bill pile, and throw the 95% of it that came with it away. So that you are not saving paper for later, right? You want to get down to the hot paper, right? You want to get down to the really good one, and you want the rest to get out of your face. Because when you're doing the bills, you'll be opening them, and then the inserts end up on this, you're going to end up with a table covered with inserts while you're trying to pay the bills, and you're just seeding a new pile. No, no, no. Open the envelopes. Yes, ma'am.
Along the lines of the donation charities, I have lots of clients that want to give a lot of things away too. And basically, a lot of people give to a lot of charities. So if you pick the few that you're going to stick with and only send to them, because somebody else is going to send to those other people. Because if they weren't making any money, they wouldn't be mailing stuff out. Because if you alter all the different ones, you're going to constantly get from all
Yeah,
of
you
them.
like exponentially expand how much solicitation you get, right?
The ones that you don't want, write on there, please take me off your list one time and send it in, so they'll take, because I have to do that with senior people that feel so guilty that they got the penny or the nickel or the return address labels, but then it puts them on 3 other lists every time they give to one other, all these different ones. So pick your few, stick with those, and write the others a no.
And in the 47th time that you've gotten return address labels as an incentive, yeah, shred them, throw them out, whatever, because you're never mailing that much mail in your lifetime. I'm sorry. Like I have worked with little old ladies, and they're like, yes, we put these over here, and it's like a plastic unit that's bulging with only return address labels, and it's like, sister, are you writing a lot of letters right now? No. So don't make a pile of useless labels. Bless them and kiss them and throw them in the trash. Keep the ones that have cute kitties on them and throw the rest in the trash, right? Filter, 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 okay? All right, you guys, I think we are done for the day. Thank you so much for coming, and I hope you get your paper under control. Woo! See